What happens to an economy when its people retire and begin to consume less? It's a silly question if the economy is tied to banking, like in Luxembourg, or oil, like the United Arab Emirates. But here in the United States of America, more than 2/3 of our economy is tied to how much people consume. Like wallpaper, ripped off an old plastered wall, the COVID pandemic revealed what it really looks like when people stop consuming. How do we know? Well, all economies measure their value or their worth by totaling up the cost of everything produced or consumed within their borders. This is what we call GDP, or gross domestic product. And our GDP declined by 32% in the months that surrounded the pandemic-induced economic shutdown. It even tipped us into recession, all because people began to consume a little bit less. But the shutdown revealed a hidden crack behind that wallpaper, a glimpse into yet another consumption crisis right around the corner, the graying of the US economy. You know what we're talking about here, right? Like some people call this the silver tsunami, others call this the gray wave or the silver wave. We prefer our term grey-conomy because, well, it has the word economy in it, but we are all talking about the same thing, the aging of the US consumer into retirement. My name is Neely Tamminga, and if economic data were nutrition, I'd be a nutritionist. The company I co-founded, Distill, advises CEOs and boards about consumer behavior all through an economic lens. I have been researching and writing about consumerism for more than half my life. And as nerdy as I can get into the details and data, I have found that personal experiences truly do spark the best insights. So, when I was a little girl, around the age of 12, I used to love to hop on my bike and ride into the center of the town I grew up in called Webster Groves, Missouri. There in the center of town stood this Ben Franklin 5 and dime store known for its endless aisles of candy. Before I'd hop on my bike, I'd be at home scraping together this sweaty wad of coins and cash, amounting to $5 before stuffing them in my pocket. On those trips, my economic reality was $5. And my life's priority was to purchase all the Swedish fish my money would allow me to buy, which was a lot back then because when I was a kid, it was 1 penny per fish. Kids are not getting as much these days for their $5. I've calculated it because I am nerdy like that. They're paying 1.3 cents per fish. The point of the story is this. All consumer purchases, yours and mine, begin with an economic reality and a life stage priority. Let's consider together how these realities and priorities shift as we age. At 12, it's $5 in candy. At 22, it's a little more than $5, and candy becomes beer. At 32, it's a lot more than $5, and candy becomes a really cool car. At 42, you're making some good money. But candy starts to become whatever your mate wants to remodel in that home you just bought in the burbs. And at 52, you're making some of the best money of your career, but you also have some of your biggest bills as you seek to put kids through college, possibly pay for big weddings. It's also an age where you begin to look out onto the horizon and contemplate your retirement as you watch your parents live out theirs. And at 62, you find yourself at that doorstep of retirement. And there's a single but significant calculation that greets you in the form of a question before you decide to step through that threshold. At which age do you begin to take Social Security benefits? Now, at a lower amount, or later, at a higher amount? Whatever you decide, that amount basically remains fixed for your remaining years on this blue earth. As a child or as an adult, all consumer purchases begin with an economic reality. we can only spend what we think we have in our pockets or what we think we're going to have in our future. When we're early in our adult years, we tend to think of our income potential as one with an infinite horizon, which just fuels boundless optimism and sometimes boundless consumption as we seek to keep up with the Joneses. But as we near those retirement years, that horizon becomes a little bit more finite and pragmatism sets in. As it turns out, there's math that supports this shift in mindset. In research findings by our firm, we uncovered a chilling statistical relationship between Social Security benefits and retail sales. Now, retail sales is this commonly monitored measurement of our economy. It's part of the consumption component of that GDP we talked about earlier. We found that as Social Security benefits begin to accelerate like a foot on a gas pedal going faster and faster, retail sales begin to decelerate about a year later like another foot pumping on the brakes. As consumers age into this economic reality of retirement, they begin to spend less in the economy. Think of it this way. If you're 52 and you're still working, you don't even think twice about picking up the tab to a really big family dinner at a really nice restaurant. But if you're 72 and you're no longer working, you might have to think twice about picking up that tab because your budget, your income, it's fixed. See, as consumers age into this new reality and their mindset shifts from optimism to pragmatism, retail sales, consumption, our economy are all connected and affected. Retail sales, consumption, our economy are all connected and affected. The pandemic-induced economic shutdown proved that to be an undeniable truth. Yet, here we are with another consumption crisis right around the corner, the precipice of grey-conomy, with the aging of the US consumer into the retirement years. Each year, we see a steady growth in the number of people aging into their retirement years. We're here in the year 2020, and 20 years ago, we had 40 million people aged 62 and older. 10 years ago, that 40 million grew to 47 million. Do you know how many people are aged 62 and older this year? 66 million people. 66 million people. That's a 65% increase from 20 years ago. 66 million people. That's the entire size of the population of the United Kingdom. Look around you. 1 in 5 people are either in or very near retirement, and this is growing. There are more people turning 62 in the next 2 years here in the United States than history has ever seen before. The baby boomers are aging into retirement, which means the baby boomers are aging into a new economic reality. A simple but seismic truth. Retirees report lower income and they spend less money. Our research found that when we compared folks age 65 and older to those that are age 55 to 64, reported income was 18% lower. And not surprisingly, spending was 23% less. It makes sense. Work less, have less, spend less. Okay, so more people are aging into a new economic reality called retirement with a fixed and lower income, and therefore they're consuming less and spending less. Big deal? Big deal. The health of the US economy is built on people buying things and spending money on services. From homes to healthcare, food to gas, clothes to phones, travel to baseball games, goods and services, our nation's identity is shaped by how much people consume. So, what happens to a consumer-driven economy when so many more of its people begin to retire and consume less? Can the economy grow while consumers gray? We don't know the precise answers to these questions. This is a very new chapter in US economic history, but it will repeat itself again with the aging of the millennials. So we would be wise to contemplate our economic future, try to get it right with the aging of the baby boomers. What we do know is that for the past 70 years, it's been a codependent relationship so goes the consumer, so goes the economy. The graying of the US consumer is really an economic identity crisis revealed. We are highly dependent on consumption. We cannot reshape our economic identity, our GDP overnight. It's not possible overnight. Perhaps we need a new one, like banking is for Luxembourg or oil is for the United Arab Emirates. Maybe we do need a new dominant driver, say like manufacturing or some technological version of that. Until we get there, we can gently guide our individual consumption identities to one that is mindful, choosing quality over quantity, buying products intended to last, spending money where there's really meaning, or spending on services that we truly need. As individuals searching for our own identities, maybe we need to think a little bit less about keeping up with the Joneses and more about connecting with the Joneses, caring for the Joneses, being kind to the Joneses. Maybe if we saved or invested more during our working years, we could then spend more in our retirement years, or even better, invest more in the generations that follow us, flattening the curve of consumption while building a more sustainable economy along the way. What if we bought a little less candy, a little less beer, a more pragmatic car, a slightly smaller home, hosted meaningful, not showy weddings, chose gap years to go learn a trade and earn money before heading off to college in order to reduce our dependence on debt while there? Small moments of individual discernment can pay big dividends in the future. Here's what I want for us. Let's be a people that shapes an economy, not an economy that shapes a people. The consumer has proven that they've been in the driver's seat of this economy for the past 70 years. So let's shape it together, get in a more pragmatic car, and drive. As individuals, let's choose an economy that evolves from placing value on its citizens solely by how much they consume into one that values how they consume, mindfully, with future hindsight, with the kind of wisdom that only a 62-year-old at the doorstep of retirement can offer. Thank you. Thank you very much.